Looks like we're doing good and we got a number of people. As we get started, we'll start off with a little bit of housekeeping and then we'll go over some introductions. So we get started with the housekeeping.
Good evening, everyone. Tonight we have Diana Orozco as our Spanish interpreter. So if you need Spanish interpretation, you can go ahead and click on this globe icon that's going to be at the bottom of your screen in the Zoom panels and click for the Spanish line.
Hi, good evening, everybody. My name is Amanda Ciampolillo, and I am an environmental protection specialist for the Federal Railroad Administration. The first thing I want to say is thank you all for joining us today. This public hearing today is kind of a culmination of a lot of work from a lot of folks that are both on the meeting tonight and then also that are just kind of supporting us from the background. This project is really exciting for us. We're really looking forward to soliciting public comment. We're here to listen to what you have to say tonight. We have been working on this project for a long time. You'll kind of get that as we walk through the project. But we think we are at a really great point and we're interested in what everybody has to say tonight. So again, just thank you for your time and attention, and I will turn it over to Sheldon.
Excellent. Good evening. My name is Sheldon Peterson. I'm the rail manager for the Riverside County Transportation Commission. With the leadership of our Coachella Valley elected officials, RCTC has been actively pursuing this new intercity rail corridor from Los Angeles to Coachella Valley since at least 2013. We see this project as transformational by providing a new opportunity for mobility in the region. It would both benefit disadvantaged communities and promote economic development, provide another connection where we see is definitely needed. First off, I want to thank our partners at FRA and Caltrans and our consultant team at HDR for getting us to this milestone with the release of the public administrative draft. It's been years of work and we worked really hard to get it to this point, so we're happy to share that with you. We'll start off by having a brief video flyover of the project and the route, and then our project manager, JD Douglas, will provide an overview and kind of get into some of the details as we get ready to listen to your public comments and get your feedback at this early stage. So once again, thank you for participating.
Living in Southern California gives us access to the ocean, the mountains, the city, and the desert. With a growing number of entertainment options, it's no wonder the Coachella Valley is seeing a record-breaking number of visitors each year. But traveling along I-10 in either direction can be frustrating due to traffic and hours behind the wheel. Wouldn't it be great if we had a more relaxing way to travel? Southern California has the second busiest passenger rail corridor in the nation, extending north and south between San Diego and Santa Barbara. What's missing is the west-east connection between Los Angeles and the Coachella Valley. The Coachella Valley San Gorgonio Pass Rail Corridor Service proposes to connect Southern California communities to the beautiful Coachella Valley, providing a reliable and environmentally friendly way to access many attractions. The Riverside County Transportation Commission, Caltrans, and the Federal Railroad Administration are proposing a 144-mile passenger rail corridor to help get you out of your car and on your way to a new adventure. Let's take a peek at the future possibilities. At the western end of the rail line is picturesque Los Angeles Union Station, which boasts the largest railroad passenger terminal in the western United States, with countless local and regional connections. Traveling east from Los Angeles, the first stop is revitalized downtown Fullerton. Listen to music, discover architecture, and enjoy this popular entertainment destination and cultural center. This stop also provides access to Disneyland and other amazing attractions and venues in Orange County. Our journey continues east to downtown Riverside. This bustling area offers museums, theaters, dining, and the historic Mission Inn Hotel and Spa that sponsors its annual Festival of Lights. A station in the San Gorgonio Pass will provide access to the growing communities of Banning and Beaumont, a world-class resort and spa, shopping, and the famous Cabazon dinosaurs. Our next stop is Palm Springs, the vibrant and legendary getaway city with great nightlife and stunning desert scenery. The line continues east to the heart of the beautiful Coachella Valley, home to premier golf courses, dining, resorts, spas, gaming, and miles of hiking and cycling trails, including Joshua Tree National Park. Our journey finishes at the eastern end of the rail line with potential stops in Indio and Coachella near world-renowned music festivals and unique celebrations, such as the Date and Tamale Festivals. Whether you're traveling east or west, there's a new adventure waiting for you at each stop. We're approaching our next milestone of the project with the release of the Draft Environmental Impact Statement Environmental Impact Report. While service is still years away, we are laying the foundation and actively seeking funding now to make this journey a reality for the future. Visit our webpage to learn more about this innovative project. Most importantly, we want to hear from you, so please provide your feedback on our draft environmental document. We're on this journey together, so let's imagine the possibilities of the future.
Yes, and hello. Before I wanted to hand it off to JD, let me just welcome a couple of our project champions who have joined us today. Both Dana Reed from Indian Wells and Lisa Middleton from Palm Springs have been very active in supporting this project. So we thank your efforts all the way through. Anyone else who's joined us who's also been supporting the project. So with that, I'll hand it over to JD Douglas. Thank you.
Thank you, Sheldon, and good evening, everyone. I'm JD Douglas from HDR. I'm the consultant team project manager, and I will be walking you through our presentation tonight leading up to the public comment period. So the slide that's up now will give you an overview of the project to start out. I'll go over the project purpose and need, which is the important fundamental foundation statement for the project. We'll talk a little bit about the history and prior activities in planning this project. And then we'll get into specifics about the environmental document itself, talk about the alternatives that are being evaluated in this document, and then how you can review the document and provide your comments in addition to the opportunity to comment tonight. We will have at the end of the presentation, a question and answer period. That is not part of the public comment period, but to provide an opportunity for attendees to ask clarifying questions about the project to help their understanding of the project and enable them to make comments. And then we will have the public comment period after the Q&A period. So let's dive into the presentation. And first, an overview of what this session tonight is all about. Our focus is the Coachella Valley San Gorgonio Pass Rail Corridor Service Tier 1 Program Environmental Impact Statement, Environmental Impact Report. That's a mouthful for sure. That document has evaluated this potential rail program and the environmental impacts of it Our meeting tonight will provide you with the opportunity to comment on the draft environmental document. We'll provide more specific directions later when we get to the comment period, but we'd like you to keep in mind when you're making your comments, please explain the basis for your comment, provide data or references that provide facts and reasonable assumptions based on facts or expert opinion supported by the facts. Also, please submit the name of a contact person who will be available for later consultation if necessary. Next slide, please. So what is the Coachella Valley San Gorgonio Pass Rail Corridor Service Program? As Sheldon mentioned in his introduction, the Federal Railroad Administration, Caltrans, and the Riverside County Transportation Commission have been collaborating to study a potential new passenger rail service that would extend from Los Angeles Union Station to the Coachella Valley with its eastern terminus in either the city of Indio or Coachella. Next slide. The study area is shown on the map on screen with LA Union Station on the west, Coachella on the far east, and you'll see the orange dots for existing stations that will be utilized, and then the orange band areas are communities where potential new stations might be added to serve the service. The service would include 2 round trips per day between Los Angeles and the Coachella Valley, and up to 6 potential stations in the eastern half of the corridor, including the existing Palm Springs station and up to potentially 5 new stations. I mentioned the purpose and need as the foundational statement of what the project is endeavoring to accomplish. So the need is driven by the fact that the region's population and employment continue to grow. There are very limited, constrained travel options other than driving a car between the LA area and the Coachella Valley. This kind of service would also help serve the needs of disadvantaged communities and help to achieve air quality goals for the region. The purpose and the objectives of the project are to provide more and more convenient, faster, and more frequent service than the existing transit service, to provide an alternative to driving that has reliable schedules, to provide an affordable transportation service, to improve the regional options for transit-dependent people making longer distance trips through the region, and to serve the expected growth of population and employment within the corridor and help to contribute to air quality goals. So a question we often get asked is, why are you talking about Amtrak intercity service and not Metrolink commuter rail type of service? There are a few reasons for this. First of all, Amtrak intercity type of service with this long of a trip time, it's preferred to have the more comfortable accommodations that the Amtrak service can provide as compared to commuter rail service. The initial schedules that we have been studying for the service include 2 round trips per day. And as the charts there show, the initial thinking is that there would be 1 trip in the morning and 1 trip in the afternoon in each direction. A third reason that we're talking about Amtrak type of service is that Congress has authorized Amtrak to operate on private railroads as long as track improvements are made so that the passenger rail service can operate together with the freight rail service that's on those railroads. Metrolink does not have that type of federal legislative authorization. And lastly, intercity service is funded by state agencies. This type of service would be similar, for example, to the Pacific Surfliner Amtrak passenger service, which the state is a source of funds for. Now a little bit for you about the history of this program and prior planning activities. RCTC actually started very early feasibility studies of this rail concept way back in the early 1990s. They had a couple of initial feasibility studies back then looking at 1 or 2 daily rail round trips between LA and Indio. After 2010, for the next 3 years, there were a couple of additional feasibility studies. And then, as Sheldon mentioned, in 2013, RCTC embarked on a significant new market assessment and alternatives analysis for the corridor, looking at 5 alternative routes through the LA area to determine the preferred alignment. That led up to the significant milestone in July of 2016, when the alternatives analysis was finalized and the preferred route was selected to move forward into the current environmental study. In the fall of 2016, public scoping meetings were held for this environmental study, and the technical team began the technical studies to prepare the foundation for this draft environmental document. Looking at the overall project development process then, as I mentioned, the alternatives analysis was completed in 2016. We are currently in the phase of the program level or tier 1 environmental document, and also a service development plan to meet the technical analysis needs of the Federal Railroad Administration. Future steps will include getting into more detailed engineering and project level environmental analysis when specific construction projects are proposed. And then following that stage, the project would advance into final design and then construction, and ultimately getting to operation of the service. So there are several steps through the process, and a lot of work still to go after we complete this tier 1 program level environmental document. So what exactly is being prepared in this project with the tier 1 and the service development plan? As I mentioned, the service development plan is a technical document prepared for the Federal Railroad Administration. FRA has this planning document for these types of services around the country when they are implemented or expanded. And it involves analyzing the service levels, the infrastructure needs in order to achieve operational goals, modeling specifically of the route over which the operation will occur, evaluating station areas and the catchment areas and how access will be provided to those station areas, and then connectivity with other rail and transit services at stations along the corridor. That's the SDP technical side of our current phase. Then what we're really here for tonight is the program level Tier 1 EIS EIR. This is a joint environmental document merging the needs of the Federal National Environmental Policy Act, or NEPA, as well as meeting the needs of the California Environmental Quality Act, or CEQA. The program level document addresses the likely environmental effects associated with the proposed rail service. It provides the basis for subsequent phases of tiered environmental documents. So this Tier 1 analysis does not get to the level of specificity of proposed projects to be constructed, but it's evaluating the impacts of the service being operated. When specific construction projects are identified in the future, they will be subject to a Tier 2 project level environmental analysis. To give you a few more specifics on Tier 1 versus Tier 2, and I should mention Tier 1 is the federal or NEPA term for this higher level environmental study, and program level is the CEQA term for this level of study. So our document will satisfy both the federal and state environmental requirements. It will evaluate the effects of implementing the service in the regional context. So it specifically identifies broad areas of the potential environmental effects that will be associated with the overall construction program and operation of the service. So it will identify the resources that could potentially be affected within the study area by either the construction or the operation. It's important to note that it's a procedural planning document only. There is not any project proposed to be constructed yet, but it's to help the decision makers understand what the impacts would be of construction in general if the project were to move forward. As I mentioned, the Tier 2 or project level environmental process would be required for any specific infrastructure improvements that would get built, but that Tier 2 environmental analysis would occur after more specific designs have been prepared for the specific projects. Okay, moving on. This environmental document evaluates a whole range of topics. It's the full range of potential impacts that are in a typical environmental document. I'm not going to read through the bullets one by one because it covers 2 slides, but just be aware that it's a very comprehensive analysis, and it includes all of the range of resource areas and potential impacts in a typical environmental document. So now to describe the alternatives that are evaluated in the EIS EIR itself. There is a no-build alternative, and there is a build alternative with 3 service options. when I was talking about the history of the program, I mentioned that the previous study evaluated several different route alternatives and narrowed down the route to this one preferred build alternative route. So the no build alternative is basically no new service in the corridor. The build alternative has three options, and the differences between them are basically the eastern terminus and then the amount of new track infrastructure that is involved. Option one, again, they all have 2 round trips of service. Option one has its eastern terminus in the city of Coachella. So it has 6 stations, up to 6 stations potentially in the eastern part of the corridor. And it would have a new 3rd track in the whole eastern part of the corridor between Colton and Coachella. Option number 2, again, 2 round trips. The eastern terminus of option 2 would be in the city of Indio, 4 miles west of Coachella, basically. So it would only have 5 stations east of Colton because it would not have a Coachella station. And option 2 has a new 3rd track throughout the entire eastern section from Colton to Indio. Option 3 is a somewhat modified infrastructure element. It's similar to option 2 in that it again has 2 round trips per day with its eastern terminus in Indio and 5 stations east of Colton. The extent of the 3rd track is the difference in this alternative. The technical studies that I mentioned before evaluated how much 3rd track would be necessary in order to make sure that the project could achieve the FRA requirements of 90% on-time train performance without adding delay to the freight trains in the corridor. And the modeling indicated that there might be a need to have a 3rd track all the way from Colton to the eastern terminus. But it might be possible to achieve those performance objectives with somewhat less 3rd track. And so for modeling and analysis purposes, option 3 considers a 3rd track from Colton to approximately the middle of the Coachella Valley, which would be approximately Rancho Mirage or Palm Desert. Next slide, please. The next couple of maps just provide an overview of the 2 sections of the corridor. The western section from LA through Fullerton and Riverside to Colton is shown on this map. And there would not be any need for additional track or rail infrastructure or stations in the western half of the corridor. The sufficient infrastructure is already in place to serve the needs of the rail service in the western half. The next slide shows the eastern end of the corridor with Coachella as the eastern terminus. Again, those thicker areas of the purple line indicate the potential areas in which new stations might be located. The environmental analysis identifies the potential impacts throughout those whole bands so that when specific stations are identified and evaluated in a Tier 2 document, this document will have identified potential types of impacts anywhere within those larger bands. And the next slide is the same thing of the eastern section, but with the terminus in Indio, which is again 4 miles to the west and north of Coachella. Next slide, please. So now I'm going to go through the opportunities that you have to review the documents, and then we'll provide your opportunities of where and how to comment on the subsequent slides. The draft Tier 1 program EIS EIR was released on May 21st and is out for a 45-day public review period, so it will be available for public comment until July 6th. Digital copies of the document are available on the RCTC website, the FRA website, and the regulations.gov website. Next slide. A number of printed copies have also been made available at locations around Southern California, mostly libraries, also the RCTC offices. Just check ahead for opening times of those facilities, and note that if you'd like to review it at RCTC, you can make an appointment to do so. Now to talk about how to submit your comments. There are 3 methods for submitting your comments. The first is during the public hearings, and we are having 2 of them this evening and this coming Saturday morning. The second opportunity will be provided by submitting it on the online form, which is on the regulations.gov website. And the link that's there can take you to our project's specific website location where you can submit that form. If you wish to submit it by regular mail, the address is provided there. It's to the attention of Amanda Ciampalillo, who is with us on the webinar tonight, and you already heard from Amanda at the beginning. Comments that are mailed in should be postmarked by July 6th or sooner to be within the comment period. As I mentioned, we are going to have a second virtual public hearing this coming Saturday. There's the location for registering and the meeting ID. And as with tonight, Spanish interpretation and English closed captioning will be available on Zoom. And the recordings of both the English and Spanish versions of tonight's hearing will be posted on the project website. So that brings us to the close of the presentation part of our agenda. And now we come to the part for clarifying questions. If anyone is unclear about certain elements of the project or has specific questions about what the project is proposing to do, again, this is not the comment period of the meeting. We'll get to that in a few minutes. But we do want to, if anyone needs clarifying questions that they have to ask, we do want to give you answers with those so you're understanding what the project is that's being evaluated in this document. So, Stevie, do we turn it over to you for for this point?
Sure. We do have a number of questions in the Q&A already, so I'm just going to start with the first one here from Steve Coleman. Steve is asking, why did you recommend the routing via Fullerton rather than the shorter route that could also serve the Ontario airport?
Yeah, I'll take that one. The alternatives analysis that was done between 2013 and 2016 evaluated 5 alternative routes through the Los Angeles area, and the route past Ontario Airport was one of those 5. There were a number of criteria that were considered in evaluating those, including potential ridership, the cost of the infrastructure that would be needed, as well as the operations. And at the conclusion of that analysis, the route through Fullerton was the best alternative in all of those respects. Sheldon, did you want to add anything to that?
No, that basically covers it. It just looked like the best performing route and connected to Orange County and all the opportunities there, as well as downtown LA. So it looked like at the time the best option to move forward.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. We do also have a question from Brandy Keith. Will a copy of Mr. Douglas's presentation be available online for further review?
Yes, we can make that available on the project website. Along, as JD mentioned, we'll have the full recordings of these messages as well in these public hearings. They will be made available.
Okay, and we do also have a question from Philip Kaplan, who also provided some comments. So again, we are only taking some clarifying questions right now, and we will be doing a separate formal comment session after this. But his question was, let's see, my question has to do with the compliance with Title II of the Americans with Disabilities Act. One, regarding the train cars, accessibility for people with disabilities, and 2, the need for accessible ground transportation to and from the stations.
Yes, and so we would be offering fully ADA compliant rail cars. We haven't specifically identified what rail cars will be made available, but Amtrak has a very aggressive ADA program throughout the country, and we would meet all the requirements there. As far as ground transportation, we're supportive of trying to help ensure those first mile, last mile connections and try to make those accessible as well. So once we get into that implementation phase, we will definitely look to address and meet those needs. You also mentioned a quick question about the stations. As we go and move forward in design of the stations, we will look at accessibility issues. You mentioned that the Palm Springs stations has been there for a while, so there could be an opportunity to make it easier for all riders to access that station as we move that project forward. So there would be upgrades at stations like Palm Springs.
Great. Thank you, Philip, for that question. And we have a question from Reed Alvarado. How will this line interact for funding with the LA to Phoenix route proposed recently?
Yes, we've been in discussions with Amtrak about their proposals and their Connect Us program nationally. We see that both the service to Indio and Coachella and a future service to Phoenix would be very complementary. If we were to get our service up and running first, that service would be the same route and access for future Phoenix service. So we don't see it as a competition. We see it as definitely a complementary effort to try to advance both projects at the same time.
This is a similar question from Anthony Tristan. Will this project eventually interlink with a national system?
Yes, with a connection at LA Union Station, we're connected to all kinds of locations throughout the nation. So we got Amtrak service up to Oregon and Washington from LA, as well as cross-country routes. So Making that connection to Los Angeles is vital to connecting this route to the network.
Okay, we have a question from Oliver. He's asking, how much time will the trip take?
We had that previous slide that did have a rough schedule. We're looking at roughly, I think, 3 hours and 15 to 3 hours and 30 minutes to go ahead and make that connection. Hopefully over time we could expedite that trip, but that's the current technology that we're looking at.
Barbara DeQuoto is asking, will there be a banning station? I currently drive to Riverside to San Clemente Pier every weekend for 15 years.
Yes, we're glad you're able to make that weekend trip to San Clemente. We agree that it's a great service on Metrolink. We identified that there would be a pass area station, but we haven't specifically cited on which community it'll be in. That'll be part of the Tier 2 effort. So we do anticipate that sort of route. Our service would be able to take you as far as potentially Fullerton to make connections and or into downtown Los Angeles, but couldn't directly connect you to San Clemente Pier, unfortunately. But we'll get you closer.
Okay, we have another question from Reed Alvarado. Will there be any opportunities for a transfer to the Omnitrans Aero line in Redlands or to Metrolink's San Bernardino line?
Yeah, that's a great question. We're coordinating with our partners at SBCTA to look at some opportunities for a station in the San Bernardino or Loma Linda area that could potentially make shuttle connections with the Aero service or the San Bernardino station. We don't see it as a direct link because they're two separate rail lines, but we would definitely make as tight of a connection as we could with some sort of shuttle service that we'll explore in the future.
Michael would like to know or would like to understand that at this stage, are you looking at both train and monorail along the I-10?
Specifically for our project, we are looking at traditional rail service along the existing rail corridors, so it wouldn't directly follow the 10 freeway. So we're not anticipating any new technology such as the monorail with this specific project.
Okay, we do have a question from Tim. Tim is asking, why types of funds are dedicated for these operations? Also, will the ticketing be the same as Metrolink?
We're looking at various fund types to go ahead and support the operations of the service. Typically, these type of services are funded through the state's program, such as the Surfliners that JD mentioned earlier. So we'd anticipate the operating funds to come from those sources. The ticketing would be a little bit different than Metrolink, but the state's looking at interconnectivity or interchangeability for ticketing throughout the network. So we would definitely make sure that there would be some transfer agreements or some way for those tickets to be connected.
We have a question from Steve Smith. The EIS EIR shows freight train volumes in the eastern section doubling by 2040. Some of the communities along the route are concerned that the third track will enable this growth to occur more easily with all the associated impacts. We think that this potential outcome needs to be evaluated and explained in detail. Would this be possible for the final EIS EIR?
Yes, Steve, we appreciate that question, and that's the type of comment that we would like to see in the formal comments. So we really don't have a quick answer for that, but definitely include that in the formal comments and we will address it as part of the process.
Okay, Shelley Kaplan would like to know, will the new track sections be designed for the high-speed train travel?
The way it's being designed right now is for more traditional rail service. High-speed rail that's progressing in other areas of the state has a very different service portfolio. So their curves and everything else are being designed very differently than the work we're doing right now. So It's not specifically designed for high-speed trains over the typical 90 miles an hour at this point.
Okay, Michael has a follow-up question. How many of the cities along the I-10 have responded to your plan to date? Does the federal land that Morongo have a high priority for this service?
I'm not sure we're clear on who's responded. We've reached out to a number of communities, so we don't have the formal comments to the environmental document just yet. So we'll definitely include those in the follow-up as we look at that. We have reached out to the Indian tribes along the corridor as well to make sure they're well informed of the process. So they are being stakeholders and partners in this effort.
Okay, thank you for that. Philip, I do see your hand raised. If you'd like to go ahead and ask your question through the Q&A, that would be great. If not, we'll hold your comments for the official comment period. Other than that, we do have another question from Tim. This question is there anything with the current design that would preclude future electrification?
Yeah, I don't think there's anything that'll specifically preclude it. I think if we do look for electrification in the future, we would need to potentially expand the footprint or identify that technology. So I think there is a future opportunity, but it's not a specific element of our initial planning.
Okay, that is everything that is coming through the Q&A. I do see a hand raised from Margot. Margot, I'm going to go ahead and unmute you. I'm not sure if you have the ability to use the Q&A, so go ahead and unmute yourself and ask your question. Margot, you are still muted. I did unmute you, so you would just need to unmute yourself at your end if you had a question.
Okay. The present Palm Springs train station is in the Boondocks, in the wind belt and the sand belt, and very few people know it's even there. It would have to be improved a great deal. And there's a wonderful spot when we were discussing Amtrak in 1982, that if there was going to be a railway, the best place for the station would be near the Agua Caliente casino, which was not built then, but it's at the bottom of Bob Hope Drive and Highway 10. And there's a big space there that has been really kept for the purpose of a station in the future. I think there may be some storage places there which can easily be removed, and it would be an ideal spot for it. Everybody could get to it. Of course, it would be in Rancho Mirage, which is a few miles further on.
Margot, did you have a specific question you would like to ask our team today?
I just encourage them to go ahead, and we have to walk before we can run. And I think it's a great start. It isn't a question, it's just a comment. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Just as a reminder, we are going to be taking formal comments during the formal comment period. That is next. So I do encourage you to make that comment during that time. So right now we're just going to be taking Q&A, but I actually don't see any more questions coming in. So I'm wondering if we're good, JD and Sheldon, to just move on at this point.
Yes, and just real quick for Margot, that location she identified could be an option for what we've been calling a mid-valley station. So we see the potential of having multiple stations in Coachella Valley, and that Agua Caliente could be a potential site. So that's great input. We really do appreciate that. And I'm good with moving on. Thank you.
Okay, so we are going to be moving forward with the official comment period today. We do have a court reporter who will be transcribing tonight's comment session. So we are going to be limiting comments to 3 minutes per speaker through a timer. And we request that you formally state your name. And if you have a name that is a little harder to spell, just for ease for our court reporter, if you can spell that for her, that would be great. So again, we are limiting to 3 minutes per speaker. We want to make sure everyone has an opportunity to give their comment tonight. And to request to speak, we are going to be asking for verbal comments only. So anything that's coming in through the Q&A will not be accepted as a formal comment today. So you can go ahead and use your hand feature, but if we have any callers, I don't believe we have any callers today, but if you do have a call in, you can dial *9 to raise your hand. And when it's your turn to speak, we're going to be unmuting you. And call-in users can dial *6 to unmute your mic when you hear your number announced. So let me just get that started. Okay, we do have a hand raised from Brian. So Brian, go ahead and unmute yourself when you're ready.
Hello, good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hello, my name is Brian Yanity, and I am Vice President South of the Rail Passenger Association of California and Nevada, or RailPAC. And thank you again for this opportunity to give comments this evening on the Coachella Valley Tier 1 program EIS, EIR, Coachella Valley Rail, I should say. RailPAC is a 501c3 volunteer group of railroad professionals and advocates that has campaigned for improved personal mobility in California and the West since 1978. RailPAC applauds the effort to advance additional intercity rail service between Los Angeles Union Station and the Coachella Valley. It has long been a goal of our organization, the California State Rail Plan, and many in Riverside County. And we recognize this is a Tier 1 program, EIS, EIR, which is one step of a multi-phase iterative process, and details such as passenger station locations and so forth will be evaluated in the next phase. However, RailPAC wants to emphasize how this project can open the door for future projects and goals much greater than the proposed, or I should say, evaluated in the Tier 1 passenger rail service option of 2 daily round trips between Los Angeles Union Station and the Coachella Valley. RailPAC fully supports the main feature of the preferred build alternative option 1, which is construction of a new 3rd mainline track, 76 miles long along the Union Pacific Railroad's existing Yuma subdivision between Colton and Coachella. Given the capital costs of the 3rd mainline track proposed from Colton to the Coachella Valley, RailPAC wants to emphasize the variety of benefits to passenger and freight rail that are possible with this investment in additional track capacity. Any proposed service in the Coachella Valley Rail Corridor and the capital improvements associated with it must be a building block for future expansion. And I'm just going to briefly list a few initiatives that would also benefit from this investment and add significant public value to any capital grant request for a Colton-Coachella 3rd mainline track. And perhaps we should evaluate them in the Tier 2 of this EIR. That's greater frequency than proposed, a greater frequency, like much more than 2 round trips a day, maybe 6 or 12 preferably, with higher speeds. A daily Amtrak Sunset Limited, which has long been a goal of our organization and also many in Riverside County. Benefits the Union Pacific Freight Rail. With the new 3rd track, UP can run a lot more conventional freight trains along with short haul and medium haul trains that get trucks off I-10. The new California-Arizona passenger service that Amtrak has proposed, extension to the Imperial Valley, as proposed by RCTC's 1991 study. That's down to Coachella, or sorry, to El Centro, Calexico. And I guess that's the end of my 3 minutes. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you, Brian. Okay, we just as a reminder, if you don't want to provide a verbal comment today, there is an opportunity for you to still provide your comment through a written way. We have linked the regulations.gov in the chat feature. So if you would rather provide a written comment today, you can go ahead and just visit that website, and you will be able to do that through there. So we do have another hand raised from Reed Alvarado. So Reed, I'm going to unmute you and go ahead when you're ready.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Reed Alvarado. I am a resident of Palm Springs and actually a car-free resident of Palm Springs. I'm a frequent user of Amtrak's current throughway bus service to Fullerton, and I understand the vested interests, which makes a lot of sense for RCTC to want to serve Riverside. That being said, I think it's incredibly important that in the next EIR, there is a specific plan outlined that expands on the dedicated shuttle comment and hopefully improved access either through BRT or what have you to the SB line or the Aero Rail for faster and more convenient access to Metrolink and the Inland Empire. I also wanted to support Margot's comment about a Mid-Valley station. As we know, in Palm Springs, the current station is located in a very desolate area, and Agua Caliente, Sunline Transit Agency, CSUSB PD are all areas that are served in the Mid-Valley area. I wanted to just echo that support for a Mid-Valley station option, and coordinate with the local transit agency in the future for added connections for people once they get off that line. And finally, I wanted to just support the previous comment for a full corridor third track for increased frequency. As we all know, 2 daily round trips won't suffice the desire to be able to live in this region car-free and access the second largest city in the country. But it's a great starting point, and I fully support this project and just want to see more car-free transit options and accessibility for the Coachella Valley. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that comment, Reed. Okay, we have another hand raised from Anthony Tristan. Anthony, I just unmuted you. Go ahead and unmute yourself and provide your comment when you're ready.
Hello, thank you for this opportunity. I'm a longtime resident of the Coachella Valley. I've also lived in the Bay Area for 6 years, so I had the opportunity to take the BART to school from Berkeley.
I'm sorry, would you just please provide your name for our court reporter today?
Sure. I thought I stated it was Anthony Tristan.
Okay, thank you.
And I'm a longtime resident of the Coachella Valley, but I've also lived in Orange County, LA, and the San Francisco Bay Area. And I had the opportunity of taking the BART, which was very convenient, from Berkeley to San Francisco State to acquire my teaching credential. I'm an educator for Palm Springs Unified School District, and I'm very excited to know that this is finally being talked about. I mean, considering that Walt Disney was talking about or had the first monorail in the Western Hemisphere back in the 60s. I did commute recently, a couple years ago, to USC 3 or 4 times a day. I mean, 3 or 4 times a week for my master's in public administration. And prior to that, in the early 2000s, I had a commute to Cal State Long Beach. So I'm very excited that a rail system is going to be implemented hopefully soon. And it's much needed, especially since Palm Springs has been a destination since the 20s. I worked at a place in Desert Hot Springs, Two Bunch Palms Resort, where supposedly Al Capone was visiting in the 20s. So this place has been well known for people coming from LA, and I think it's long overdue. Japan has been building monorail since the 60s. 1960s. So I'm grateful that you guys are working on this, and I appreciate it. And thank you for allowing me to comment.
Thank you, Anthony, for your comment. We are going to move on. We have do have a few hands raised in the queue, so I will just be taking them as I see them. Peter, I'm going to go ahead and unmute you now, and feel free to start when you're ready.
I'm Peter Green. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear
Okay,
you.
good. It's a green like the color for the court reporter. I'm a resident of Palm Desert. I support the proposal. I would like to reiterate that besides having a station at Bob Hope, I would hope they would consider a station in University Park, where the proposed Cal State campus is going. Across from that, there's 100 or 10,000 seat arena being built as we speak. And the Seattle Kraken minor league team will be based there. So also I would like to see in the final report if additional trains could be provided for special events like Coachella or athletic events or other things. My other concern, which I also put in writing, is I believe that the North Palm Desert residents are going to want either a sound wall or some other mitigation like landscaping for additional rail noise. They're already upset about the rail noise as it is. But again, I support the project and thank you for your time.
Thank you for your comment, Tim. Or thank you for your comment, Peter. Tim, I do see your hand is raised, so go ahead and start when you're ready. I've unmuted you.
Thank you. So my name is Timothy Papandreou, spelled P-A-P-A-N-D-R-E-O-U. I am a resident of Palm Springs and am a transportation planner as well. So I really applaud the RCTC's efforts to try and get this corridor underway. Let's figure out how we can get this expedited so we can get the service from LA to this area as quickly as possible. I do want to highlight two things. One is that we want to make sure that the access to and from the stations really look at the surrounding street designs, focusing on making sure that there's prioritized areas for bicycle and transit bus access. We also want to mention that in Palm Springs, their recent climate action work has basically identified that regional trips are growing much faster than they can handle, which is increasing their carbon footprint impact. So this is a regional corridor with regional trip reduction prospects, but only if they're really connected to the areas that they serve. So I really want to see much stronger connections with the street design from the two and them stations, the transit access, the bicycle access with parking, and more interoperability design for how it links in with the Metrolink system. But overall, I think this is fantastic. And I'm so glad you guys are moving forward in this. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Tim, for that comment. I don't see any other hands raised at this point. Again, if you would like to provide a comment today, you can go ahead and use the raise hand feature. That will be located at the bottom of your screen on the Zoom control panels. If you don't want to provide a verbal comment, we do have provided the link in the chat to the regulations.gov website. So if you would rather provide a written comment today, you can go ahead and just click on that website and that will be a way for you to do so. We do have a hand raised at the moment from Barbara. So Barbara, I'm going to go ahead and unmute you now and go ahead when you're ready.
Hi, my name is Barbara DeCudo, and that last name is spelled D as in dog, O-C cat, O-U-T-O. And I'm so excited about this transaction that is being done. I've lived here in Sun Lakes for 21 years, and the last 16 years, like I said, I take the train every weekend in the summer because I'm originally from Rhode Island and I miss the ocean, and I drive down to the Riverside downtown station and do that every weekend. Unfortunately, we have had a lot of mishaps, like a lot of train having to be stopped because of people trying to commit suicide and all. And I don't know if there's anything that can be done about that. That is very discouraging, which I've sometimes have had to come home late at night. But I am so happy that this is being done. I've been talking about it to the conductors every time I go on the train, because I am going to be 80 years old in August, and I don't know how long I can be driving down to the Riverside station. By me living in Banning, it would be so convenient for me to get my beach bag on that train and hop on and get off really quickly. And I appreciate all the work that you folks are doing. And we really, really need it in this area, because the Banning and Beaumont area is really growing, and there is a lot of senior communities here. And this would be so convenient for the elderly to get on a train, to go to LA to concerts or go to a ball game. And we so appreciate what you guys are doing, and good luck in your endeavor. Thank you for listening to me.
Thank you, Barbara. That was I think I can speak for the group and I can say that was a wonderful comment. We don't have any other hands raised at the moment. Margot, I know you had a comment earlier. I do invite you to give that comment again for the record if you would like to raise your hand. If you would have rather do it through a written comment, you can go ahead and use the regulations.gov website that we have linked in the chat. Oh, great. I'm going to go ahead and unmute you. And go ahead when you're ready.
Well, I just commented on the Palm Springs train station as is, which is terrible. And a lot of people don't even know it's there. But another gentleman also commented on that. So I think we've looked at that issue, that we certainly need something better than what is there that most people don't even know about. And I do like that place in Bob Hope Drive at the corner, there near the Agua Caliente. But the other place near the college, I think that's on Cook Street, that's an extremely good spot too. But I think they were keeping that for further expansion and for parking places for the college, which is going to grow and grow. I have nothing more to say except I'm excited about this wonderful train. I think you're doing a great job. And I am so glad that Donna Reed, our representative for Indian Wells, is spearheading it here and getting us all excited about it in Indian Wells. Thank you, Donna. Goodbye.
Thank you, Margot, for your comment. I do have another hand raised from Lisa Middleton. So Lisa, I'm going ahead and unmute you, and you may provide your comment when ready.
Thank you. And I'm Lisa Middleton, member of the Palm Springs City Council, as well as member of the Riverside County Transportation Commission. All of us in Palm Springs are very well aware of the need for improvement of the Palm Springs train station. I can tell you that council will look very enthusiastically at making those improvements as we progress towards achieving the kind of train service that is being envisioned here this evening. Thank you.
Okay, those are all the hands raised we have at the moment. This could be a good time for the group to take a short recess as we wait for more comments to come in. Or if you'd like, we can move on to the next slide while people think of maybe some other comments they would like to provide today. And just as a reminder, we are going to be here until 8 p.m. We don't have anything else on the agenda other than the public comment period. So you are free to leave if you've already provided your comment. But we and the group will be on until 8 p.m. today. We do have a hand raised, so I'm going to ask our panelists to come back on. Okay, Gary, I'm going to unmute you now and go ahead when you're ready. Gary, you are still muted if you are trying to.
Yes, good morning. Or good afternoon. This is Gary Levin. I live in Riverside, but I have spent quite a bit of time living in the desert for about 10 years. And I think this is a great idea. It's quite ambitious. I'm sure there are a lot of hurdles to get over. Living in the Coachella Valley sort of is a different experience. It's a different environment, a different community, and you do feel cut off from the rest of Southern California at times. I think this is a great idea because I think it will help with the people that feel isolated out there. It will certainly help the senior citizens to get back and forth. I agree with the comments about where the train stations are located. That's going to be a critical thing. One of the things I think we need to consider is how much growth there's going to be out there in the next 25 to 100 years. Palm Desert used to be us, and now there's a lot of commercial, educational things that are growing up along the I-10 railroad corridor. There were a couple other things I want to comment on. Oh, I wonder how much support you're getting from our elected state representatives in this endeavor. And that's about it.
Okay, thank you, Gary. Appreciate your comments today. We do have somebody who asked if they can provide a comment. Brian, I don't see your hand up though. Would you still like to provide your comment? Okay, I do see your hand is raised now. So go ahead when you're ready.
Hello, this is Brian Yanity with the Rail Passenger Association of California and Nevada. Is it okay for me to give a second comment? I just didn't want to violate the rules if I'm only entitled to one comment.
Yes, but if there is a third comment, I am going to ask you to please go to the regulations.gov website.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you. I won't take too much time on this second comment, but an additional thing we wanted to comment on, we being RailPAC, the Rail Passenger Association of California and Nevada, when it comes to noise and vibration of the passenger rail operations, at least one speaker brought that up earlier. And in relation to section 3.6, that's mitigation strategy LU3, land use consistency, in the draft EIR documents. RailPAC recommends that sound walls and sound dampening ballast in the rail bed should be implemented where the track passes close to residential areas. I think someone mentioned North Palm Springs. We were also thinking in the Loma Linda area. And then on station location, one comment we had about the Cabazon station. So far in the Tier 1 EIR, EIS, it was identified Beaumont banning Cabazon as a single station opportunity, or at least a single kind of long, corridor along the map. However, we believe there's enough reasons to explore two stations, one for Beaumont and Banning, and the other specifically for Cabazon. There are several attractions located specifically at Cabazon, which merit a stop. I think we all know what those are. However, it's somewhat disconnected from Beaumont and Banning, so it'd likely see more commuter traffic in Beaumont and Banning versus tourists at Cabazon, and we're trying to force either group to use one or the other station for entire area will depress ridership from both. So I think we should have two stations in that area. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian, for that follow-up comment. Looks like we don't have any more hands raised at the moment. For those of you who joined us late, we are taking public comment today for the Riverside County Transportation Commission's Coachella Valley Rail project today. So if you would like to leave a public comment, please go ahead and raise your hand. If you do not wish to provide a verbal comment today, you can go ahead and visit the regulations.gov website that we've already linked in the chat today. So while we wait for another raised hand to come in, we are going to give our panelists a little bit of a break, and we will turn off their videos. I do see we have a comment coming through the Q&A today. Again, today we're only taking verbal comments. However, if you would like to leave a written comment, you can go ahead and visit the regulations.gov website that we've provided in the chat. If you would like to provide your comment today verbally, go ahead and raise your hand and we can unmute you. For those who are still with us, there are multiple ways to stay involved and updated with the project. You can stay connected on our project Facebook at CV Rail Project, or you can also follow the RCTC project. We do have the FRA website here as well, and we have the project email listed, but again, we are only accepting written formal comments through that regulations.gov email. And again, we are going to be here until 8 o'clock today. So if you have a comment, if you've not provided a comment yet and would like to do that so today, you can go ahead and raise your hand. And again, we're going to be here till 8 o'clock. And if you would rather leave a verbal comment, maybe you need time to formulate a comment, we are having another virtual public hearing, and that's going to be taking place on Saturday, June 26th. That's this Saturday, and that's going to be from 9 a.m. till 11 a.m. Our team will be on until 11 a.m. So if you log on a little late, that's okay. You can go ahead and register at the following link or on our project website. And Spanish interpretation and English closed captioning will still be available on Zoom. And English and Spanish recordings of that hearing as well will be posted on the project website following that meeting. So if you would like to join us again on Saturday, feel free to do so. Or if you have neighbors that are interested, they can also join us on Saturday as well. And just a clarification, the content on Saturday's meeting will be the same as today's meeting. So you're welcome to hear our team give a great presentation on Saturday as well, but it will be the same as today's meeting. So if you've already listened to today's meeting, then you're covered. I do also want to call attention to a couple links that we shared earlier in the chat, and that's to the project fact sheet and to the project FAQ. So if you're still looking for additional information, those are two great resources that we did post in the chat. They're also available on the project website, and you can access them there as well. For anyone who joined late, we are going to share the project video right now while we wait for more comments. But again, if you do have a comment, go ahead and just raise your hand and I can unmute you. Or if you would like to provide a written comment, you can go ahead and visit that regulations.gov link that we have provided in the chat. So let me just pull up that project video for those of you who just joined us.
Living in Southern California gives us access to the ocean, the mountains, the city, and the desert. With a growing number of entertainment options, it's no wonder the Coachella Valley is seeing a record-breaking number of visitors each year. But traveling along I-10 in either direction can be frustrating due to traffic and hours behind the wheel. Wouldn't it be great if we had a more relaxing way to travel? Southern California has the second busiest passenger rail corridor in the nation, extending north and south between San Diego and Santa Barbara. What's missing is the west-east connection between Los Angeles and the Coachella Valley. The Coachella Valley San Gorgonio Pass Rail Corridor Service proposes to connect Southern California communities to the beautiful Coachella Valley, providing a reliable and environmentally friendly way to access many attractions. The Riverside County Transportation Commission, Caltrans, and the Federal Railroad Administration are proposing a 144-mile passenger rail corridor to help get you out of your car and on your way to a new adventure. Let's take a peek at the future possibilities. At the western end of the rail line is picturesque Los Angeles Union Station, which boasts the largest railroad passenger terminal in the western United States, with countless local and regional connections. Traveling east from Los Angeles, the first stop is revitalized downtown Fullerton. Listen to music, discover architecture, and enjoy this popular entertainment destination and cultural center. This stop also provides access to Disneyland and other amazing attractions and venues in Orange County. Our journey continues east to downtown Riverside. This bustling area offers museums, theaters, dining, and the historic Mission Inn Hotel and Spa that sponsors its annual Festival of Lights. A station in the San Gorgonio Pass will provide access to the growing communities of Banning and Beaumont, a world-class resort and spa, shopping, and the famous Cabazon dinosaurs. Our next stop is Palm Springs, the vibrant and legendary getaway city with great nightlife and stunning desert scenery. The line continues east to the heart of the beautiful Coachella Valley, home to premier golf courses, dining, resorts, spas, gaming, and miles of hiking and cycling trails, including Joshua Tree National Park. Our journey finishes at the eastern end of the rail line with potential stops in Indio and Coachella near world-renowned music festivals and unique celebrations, such as the Date and Tamale Festivals. Whether you're traveling east or west, there's a new adventure waiting for you at each stop. We're approaching our next milestone of the project with the release of the Draft Environmental Impact Statement Environmental Impact Report. While service is still years away, we are laying the foundation and actively seeking funding now to make this journey a reality for the future. Visit our webpage to learn more about this innovative project. Most importantly, we want to hear from you, so please provide your feedback on our draft environmental document. We're on this journey together, so let's imagine the possibilities of the future.
So again, thank you for those who are joining us this evening. Again, we are here to take your comments. So if you do have a comment, go ahead and just raise your hand and we can unmute you at that point. Oh, we have a hand raised. Genevieve, if you just give me a moment for our panelists to come back on video. Okay, great. Everyone's back. So Genevieve, go ahead and unmute yourself when you're ready.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Oh.
Yes, we can hear you, Genevieve.
Oh, okay. I just have a question. I do want to send this information to other people in other counties that might be impacted. Well, it's Orange County specifically. Is there a place where I can get a copy of this presentation that you gave? The one we just saw and the one that we went through previously? I'm very excited about this. I've often wondered why we don't have rail service between here and LA. I live in Palm Desert. So is it possible to get this that I can send to somebody and prep them for the next meeting? Maybe you can't hear me? Hello?
Genevieve, yes, we can hear you. We are, right now we're taking formal public comments, but I can just go ahead and let you know that we are going to be posting the video recordings of today's hearing and Saturday's hearing on the project website. That will be posted sometime next week. So at that point,
So that would be rctc.org. Okay, that's all I wanted to know. I would have typed it, but you have comments, you have chat turned off. So I'm sorry to waste people's time with this.
That's no problem, Genevieve. And if your friends do want to join us for Saturday's meeting, they do have that availability to do so. We are going to be having a virtual public hearing on Saturday at 9 a.m. They can register at this link that I have just provided, or you can go on to the project website and also have them register through there. The content that is going to be presented on Saturday's meeting is going to be the same as we just presented today, but if your friends missed out, go ahead and just invite them to that public meeting on Saturday. But if they're not able to make it, we do understand, and they can go ahead and watch the video recordings later.
Okay, so that's rctc.org. Let me check it right now. Is I getting any place? Let me see. Yeah, okay. Thank you. I just wanted to be sure I had the right URL because I can't write and copy everything off of your presentation that fast. Thank
no
you.
problem. And we're going to go ahead and link that in the chat as well, so you can just pull all that information from there.
Perfect.
As well.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much, Genevieve. I do see another hand raised from Margot. So Margot, go ahead and unmute yourself.
Oh, in response to Genevieve, she could do a very nice printout of a wonderful thing that you put out explaining just about everything. And she can do it on her computer in beautiful Technicolor if she likes. And all she's got to do is to go to rctc.org and it will tell her where to go. And I printed this out and I'm giving it to all my friends because we're so excited about the project. And before I close for the last time, I think this has been a great presentation. You've all done very, very well. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comment, Margot. Again, we are going to be here for another 13 minutes or so. So if you do have another comment, or if you haven't given a comment yet, feel free to just raise your hand and we can unmute you at that point. Again, if you would rather leave a written comment for us, you can go ahead and go to that regulations.gov website that we have provided in the chat. We are going to be here until 8 p.m. today. And Genevieve, I would like to call attention to this slide, as there are other ways that you and your community can stay involved with the project and other projects that RCTC has going on. They are shown on the screen. I'll leave it here for a few moments in case you wanted to take a photo of the screen or wanted to jot it down really quick. But we do have the RCTC website that you could visit, our project Facebook, as well as the FRA website. And we do have the project email listed here as well. But again, as I mentioned earlier, we are only taking formal public written comments through that regulations.gov website that we have listed in the chat. Thank you everyone who is still with us this evening. Again, we are going to be on for a few more minutes, so if you do have a comment you would like to give to the panel, we are here to take your comments this evening. So go ahead and just raise your hand using the raised hand feature. That's going to be located at the bottom of the screen in your Zoom features. If you would also like to leave a written comment, again, as I've said earlier this evening, we do have that regulations.gov link provided to you in the chat. So if you would not like to leave a verbal comment this evening, you can go ahead and leave written comments through that link. And again, we are going to be on for just a few more minutes. And if you would rather leave a comment for us on Saturday, we are going to be here on Saturday as well. That information that we will be sharing will be identical to tonight's meeting. Okay, I don't see any more hands raised. So we are 3 minutes till 8. So I think we are good to kind of close things up for this evening. Amanda, would you like to close this out?
Sure. Thank you so much, Stevie. And thanks to all the folks here behind the scenes getting everything organized and keeping the flow going this evening. I appreciate it. Thanks to everyone who's stuck around for the whole time. Thanks for everyone for sending us your comments, for being here. We will take, we like to hear all the comments, good and, ones that have good constructive criticism. We're here to get information from the public and construct the best kind of project that we have. Like Sheldon mentioned in the beginning, it's been a long time coming, so we're really excited to get this feedback tonight. And if folks want to hear it again, please tune in on Saturday. Otherwise, there's lots of resources on in the chat and in the websites. So thanks again for coming this evening, and I will let Sheldon wrap that up too.
Yeah, and if I could just echo all the thanks from RCTC for everyone's participation and comments along the way. We look forward to a successful process here. And once again, we appreciate your time and staying up so late working with us on this process. And the team just did a fantastic job. We do appreciate that. So everyone have a fantastic night, and we will meet again.